Okay guys, this is going to be a bit of a low effort video because I have to stream in about 65 minutes, but I wanted to go over this real quick because it's going to be relatively important, especially for those who have not followed me for a while. This is basically my growth formula, okay? So back in May, I laid out the four things that are going to be the main variables for size, shape, and tissue production, right? So laying it out, I was able to figure out what I needed to answer to like actually have like a complete idea. This is not finished by any means. I have a lot of questions I still need to answer for myself, and then this could potentially be challenged down the line with some other findings. But in general, this is pretty much in line with any soft tissue healing properties or research, however you want to put it. So I'm going to go through this real quick, and hopefully this helps everyone get up to speed with what I teach. Okay, so first up, and I gotta do it this way, fatigue. So fatigue is everything I've been teaching with the interval length protocol and interval pumping. Essentially, we are trying to cause mechanical failure of collagen fibrils, and that's one of the main signals for growth with soft tissues, is that the tissue cannot stretch back to its normal shape after load. So what that normally means is that we need a lot of sets to break down as much collagen mechanics as possible, not sever the proteins, just make them so that they cannot go back into their crumpled shape. Basically, every traditional PE method that is going to be relatively high intensity is going to fall under this category. So anything that requires over a pound of force is going to be high tension in this model. It's going to require 30 to 60 minutes of these high tension tactics, 4 to 7 days a week. Depends on how fast you build new tissue and repair old tissue. Fatigue accumulates, which means that there's going to be a point where you cannot generate more fatigue easily without causing severe damage to the tissue. And this is why we have to mediate our rest with how much work we're doing. And there's, I guess I might have to add another subject, but this is part of soft tissue mechanics, is that the stretching and the rubbing of the collagen fibrils secretes growth factors found in the extracellular matrix. What that means to us normal people is that growth factors signal the cells in the penis to produce more proteins, therefore make more tissue. So fatigue somewhat guides how much growth happens in what direction, and fatigue also releases the growth factors that cause the stem cells to actually produce more tissue, as well as the mechanical damage to the tissue to really elicit that growth response. Now, this includes expansion and elongation. What that means is like expansion and elongation are practically the same thing to collagen production. All it is the direction of collagen placement and stress. So when we're pumping, for example, it works the girth of the penis. That stretch is stretching the width of the penis. Meanwhile, length is literally stretching the bands that run the length of the penis. So they're going to have very similar mechanics, except expansion also trains for being able to hold more blood. And that's a separate part of this. I guess I need to add two things to this sheet later on, but this is a good like starting point. Any kind of growth is going to need some kind of fatigue, whether it be blood holding tissue or collagen fibrils. Now, retention. This is something I have been working on for the past year and incorporating into my routine. Essentially, there was something missing from my formula that was like some guys can gain with just fatigue alone, but particularly growers need some help guiding this collagen placement. So let's go through it. This essentially directs the growth and changes the healing pattern. And more specifically, it organizes existing tissue. So what happens to an untrained tissue is that the collagen fibrils begin to kind of weave and meander away from the perfect straight alignment. So we can get basically bundled up tight collagen that does not match perfectly with the shape that we want. So in like a tendon or ligament, that's going to lead to nodules and lack of flexibility. In penis enlargement, that's going to basically mean like there's tissue that we have now that is just not the optimal shape. So if we straighten that out, we can grow pretty fast on the ruler. Additionally, the slight tension guides collagen production. So they used to call it healing in elongated state. That's not 100% accurate. But in general, if you have slight tension on the penis going the length direction, stem cells slowly migrate towards that tension and start laying collagen in that shape. And then you have the, how did they word this? Viscoelasticity, where the tissue starts to form in that shape long term. Like collagen has this weird property of shape memory. So like if it's in a shape constantly, it will begin to take that shape long term. And this is like one of the main reasons for bad posture. It's also the main reasons why a lot of people don't grow that much with penis enlargement, is because their penis is never learning to take that new shape. In my opinion, it is next to impossible to not grow new tissue. It is quite common to not have that new tissue laid down properly. So if we're trying to do retention, we're doing 2 to 6 hours of slight elongation, meaning that our weight or tension is going to be below 1 pound or 453 grams in metric. And this is going to be anywhere from 2 to 6 hours depending on your workload. Girth, we're looking at something called distension. That's just essentially saying we're going to wear a cock ring after our girth sessions to keep in that expansion for 30 to 60 minutes post-session in total. Frequent irritation will lead to more shape changes. So the more often we pump up or just get erect in this bigger state kind of guides the tissue to be bigger. So a lot of the older guys would actually teach edging for this. And they didn't realize what they were doing, but essentially since we're being erect for a very long period of time, the shape is learning that it needs to be bigger for a long period of time, and eventually it slowly gets closer to the bigger penis shape. So like if you're trying to be a shower, potentially edging could help you get your grower out into more of a shower. And finally, this is a redundant point, but stay the bigger shape as long as possible to train the new shape. So if we're using this for a length example, the 2 to 6 hours is going to be enough compared to what you're normally at. Your penis is flaccid and somewhat small compared to what it is erect at 99% of the day. We have practically increased the amount of time our penis is in the big shape by 10 to 20 fold just by adding 2 hours of time in retention. And that's going to be the main thing that's going to help a lot of guys that have, like, let's say a dense penis rather than a big penis get to like the bigger size. Now, these next two are not responsible for growth. They help with the growth response. Nutrient uptake. So, it's a bit of context. The nutrient delivery bottleneck is since the tunica albuginea is like tendons and ligaments and largely avascular. That means there's no active supply of nutrients to the tissue since it doesn't have an active blood. What happens is that the amino acids needed to build new collagen kind of just diffuse into the avascular tissue. So there's no direct supply of it. You just get it when you get it. It's like really bad shipping from China. It could be anywhere from 2 days to 4 weeks, depending on how long it's held in customs and how long it's in a shipping container over the ocean, right? Bad analogy here. But point being, avascular tissues have a much slower growth rate because they have less access to nutrients. So what we can try to do is increase how much nutrients we pull in. Cialis and other PDE5 inhibitors might help with this because it causes vasodilation, allowing more blood to circulate through the penis and therefore more passive diffusion of the nutrients. That's going to be not like make or break, but it could help some of you, particularly if you have poor erection quality or more of a grower than a shower. Then, if you haven't caught a theme here, showers seem to have it easier in penis enlargement for a variety of reasons. But then, we can also pump often and get erect often. So what I have been doing, originally AM and PM, I would do 10 minutes of light pumping. Light is going to be relative, so we're looking at 70% of your working pressure. 10 minutes AM and PM, so 10 minutes before work, 10 minutes before bed. And that's going to pull in extra, first, lymph, which carries some of these nutrients. Second, more blood, which is going to carry most of these nutrients. and is also going to train the shape like with retention. And then you could also just get erect often. The more often your penis is fully engorged, the more blood's in it. So we can pull in more nutrients that way. I'm not exactly sure how much nutrient uptake matters long term because we got to talk about stem cell density. Now, stem cell density is the meaning of how many active cells we have producing proteins in the penis. So if we can add more builders, we can build more tissue. If we have enough nutrients, that is. So since the tunica is 80% protein, the stem cells are responsible for repairing all that tissue, and they're severely outnumbered compared to everything else. And then you add in the nutrient uptake issue, it's going to be a slow process to fully repair the tissue, and that's why we need to mediate fatigue, because the stem cell density of the tissue is what's going to mediate how much rest you need. So, in general, more stem cells you have, either naturally or through some kind of chemical manipulation, which we don't really know of just at this point, will lead to more growth in general. Now, interesting thing, and this is going to be a very hot take to a lot of these old heads, stem cell density increases as tissue is trained. So the more often you do PE, technically the faster you can grow if you avoid all that strength adaptation. And this is one of the reasons why I think I've been having really good results this year, is I've been doing PE for 10 damn years, and I've been able to avoid most of the strength adaptation with penis enlargement with planned break. So like it's an accumulative effect moving forward. So I'm not saying this is exactly 100% accurate, but there is an avenue that doing penis enlargement makes penis enlargement faster if you're not overdoing it. Growth factors are responsible for stem cell activity. So much like we talked with fatigue, any kind of growth factors in the systems are going to cause the stem cells to want to produce more collagen proteins. I'm not saying inject like IGF-1 or other healing factors, but if you have elevated levels of that, you'll see a marginal increase on growth. But remember, if we see a 10% increase on growth, if we can only reasonably grow 1% per month, okay, in length, we're only looking at 1.1% in total growth, or 0.1% in increase, right? Which means we're going to go from potentially 1/8 of an inch to like 1/8 of an inch and some change. You wouldn't even notice a difference. So messing with your hormones for penis enlargement like that makes no real sense. However, direct contact vibration, which is what I'm teaching, shows direct stem cell activation at frequencies between 10 and 40 hertz. This has not been proven outside of just my success. Like, I'm probably one of the only people that actually have photo evidence of direct contact vibration therapy working. But I'm almost considering betting my house on it, is a good way to put it. I think there's something to it. I don't think you need it right away, but like, I basically doubled my growth rate while using it. Now, there's a bunch of other benefits to vibration that is beyond the scope of this video, but I feel like it might be a big part of PE in general moving forward. And then finally, and I brought this up on my live streams, those are 2:30 p.m. Eastern, usually Monday through Friday, if you're interested in that. But PRP, platelet-rich plasma injections, will have a direct impact on how much you can grow with penis enlargement. It will not increase your size right away, but if you get penis enlargement, or if you get PRP done, you can see faster gains long term, just because you have more stem cells. So let's say you increase your stem cells by 10%. I'm sorry if you hear a landscaper and was on this video, so I'm not going to stop. But let's say you increase your stem cells 10%, you're going to get 10% more gains. But if you do 20 to 50% more of that, you're going to get 50% more gains. So long term, the more PRP sessions you do potentially will increase how fast PE works for you. Not exactly sure how well that's going to work long term. Granted, I have done 2 to 3 PRP sessions in the past 2 or 3 years. I've had a lot faster gains this year compared to any other year. 1, I've added vibrations. 2, I've been way more consistent this year. So there's a lot of variables, but the PRP compound interest might be what's causing that. but the PRP compounding interest might cause that. All right, before it gets too loud, I'm going to try to finish up the little disclaimers. I think I already did that, actually. I'm finishing up here because it's become a war zone outside on anything that pollinates. So I will see you in the next one. Again, if you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'm trying to be very frequent on this channel moving forward. So if you like what I do, subscribe, please. And I'll see you in the next one.